Hello world, here's the PodLayer team doing more of our groundbreaking pioneering research. I am Najee Coach. I'm joined by Najee, Ben, and Glenn, and we're doing more Track 2 voicing. But one thing I wanted to introduce is I've been talking more with my spirits and how to go about the work that I'm doing and these guys are all doing, is making sure that even there's only a few of us, that we actually put down such lasting artifacts and records of what we did, that it makes it easy for the next generations to follow off our work. And I've been watching a lot of documentaries recently about great minds, great teams, pioneers, how they did stuff. And there's a reoccurring theme. Everyone, which my spirits already told me about, next to told us for years, which is why I've been doing what I've been doing, is they're wishing they understood more about the people. Two ways: authentic and more of the reality. So showing more of how the people did it, how they talked, what they laughed and joked about. Like, oh wow, back 1,000 years ago, the pioneers, they were joking about Donald Trump. That's interesting. They'll want to know that. It's actually good, interesting information. So I want to actually kind of capture more of what we're doing on the camera that way. And also saying that we do want to make progress, but it's up to you guys how fast you want to go with putting these beats down. But the conversations that often just seem to demand attention sometimes when we're actually having these sessions, I don't want us to feel bad about those. If we look at this context of you guys are leveling up, but it's also like a Nature Channel documentary where they're like talking about, so the champions of this tribe, or the would-be champions, they put themselves through these various trials. And here's, this is their leveling up trial they use to show their badassery. And so, I want to kind of look from that documentary point as well. Nexi really digs that. And so that way, these conversations that we have beforehand, while we wait for people to come on, they can actually highlight this stuff. And then things that just, we just can't help but jump on certain topics as we're doing the beats. They just raise something that's, kind of relevant in a way to us at that moment, and a little conversation happens. So those are gold. Those aren't just, they do slow down the progress of leveling, but yes and no. To me, I believe we actually are trying to, improve our skills and show how we're doing that. And so if that's occurring, then really that's great work too. You know what I mean? As far as contribution.
Leveling, I think, largely isn't really a numbers process,
no,
especially for us. It's a very holistic process.
It's the way. Yeah. It's the way we like to get better. You know what I mean? We like to proactively get better. And
I think, and I have a lot of I have a lot of respect for the practitioner program and everything that it's about. But I think that it's a really good way, to guide you, to guide your progress, and if you follow it, you will get stronger and you'll be a better person, and it's very important. But it's not just the numbers and the what you put on the board there. Obviously, that is still very important, and we'll keep doing this. But it's really about you and your personal growth as a hero.
The entire, the whole of it, right? I mean, getting the beats is very, very important to me. I really want to make sure that I get all of those beats and as quickly as I possibly can. But yeah, it is something that I've been noticing as well. And it has been kind of weighing on me, we're not moving fast enough, we're not moving fast enough, we're not moving fast. But at the same time, the conversations, if they're happening, then that's they should be given, they're happening for a reason, right? Natural law is happening. So you might as well get that, you might as well, record that and see, well, what is it about, why that's happening? What does that say about these people? What does that say about this mission? What does that say about everything that's going on? And what can we learn from this? And how can we make it better? I want people to look at what we're doing and think, okay, well, there's ways in which they could have done this better. I like the way that they're doing this. That's something that we should aspire to, and blah, 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 and that sort of thing.
Definitely. I think we teach, I think, in kind of four ways. 2 perception, 2 discernment. Both is pretty obvious, but it's worth saying is that first of all, the fact that we're studying as good as we are now and we understand the phenomenon like we do, we are so far beyond everyone that most people think like they're out there in the fringe, man. They're in the, they're totally crazy. So we're actually working a way to actually be recognized as fringe science. So, I mean, so we are way ahead of these people. We're way ahead of the curve. But compared to future generations that are going to pick up from here, we also know so little compared to what the future generations of Podler are going to know. They're going to start off with whatever I do in my lifetime, then whatever you guys do in your lifetime, your kids in their lifetime. So very quickly, in a few generations, they'll be like, who doesn't do Podler? Like that, you know, like that's weird. That's weird. You know, this is we actually also teach them that because they'll make mistakes in their life. They're like, oh, look, those early pioneers. They're like, they were so ahead of everyone, but they made mistakes too, getting to where they are now. And so we'll do the same thing. So I think we teach both by what we know more than the world does right now, and by the less we know than future generations. We actually teach both ways because it teaches them about their trajectory. Like, you know what I mean? People wonder, like, everyone wonders, like, how did fire actually get here? No one really knows. Fire just starts showing up in relics and shit, you know, but no one really understands. And as such a critical part of it, two of them are like that. And Podler thinks of the third, as far as the impact on humanity. First is language, then fire, and now Podler, which is actually being able to note, oh, I have a human design. But those first two, like fire, in understanding what makes humans different than other animals, don't we wish that they actually had like a nature channel person back there to actually film like the years and put into a nice documentary? Yeah, I was really missing that documentary because there's a big hole. Every documentary I've been listening to, they always keep saying blah, 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 and they get to fire happened. That's all. Yeah. They're like, I don't know if someone hit a rock on something or lightning hit a tree and they said, oh, it's on fire, I'll use that.
Yeah.
But why? Why did we do that when the other animals didn't? And then why did we go on and do all the crazy stuff that we do with it?
There wasn't enough documentation, written or technological or otherwise.
Language is the other one. At some point, we start writing, and Occam's razor, the level that we're writing at, clearly we've been doing verbal, oral tradition for way longer than that. And basically going from grunting to written language is like fire. It's just a big hole. And those are probably the two of the most important moments in human history, as far as us being like we are, and no one actually knows how they went down. My spirit is saying we will not make that mistake with Podler, because actually a world that didn't know you can actually look and see what your specialized energy fields are, to a world where everyone knows that, it's going to be a quantum leap in understanding. So
yeah, you know what?
People don't know. They're going to like know how that happened, especially the first ones. How they go from being jacked into the matrix to not jacked in, because that's very helpful.
I was just thinking, like, discoveries and when they're made, being able to actually, like, capture that in the moment, like right when it happens, that's huge, right? Like, if there's like a skateboarder and they come up with a new trick,
yes,
you know, like if it's one thing for them to just be with their buddies and they're just doing their thing, and then suddenly, you know, he does or she does like a crazy trick in the air or whatever, and that's like, whoa, and then all their friends are like witness to that moment that happened. If you're recording all the time, just 24/7, no, I'm not saying that maybe we can get up to that point, but
just know I do want to have us
more, yeah, basically,
more people doing it, and transparency.
Yeah,
Podler
exactly
is very transparent because we don't even hide.
Yeah, and so I mean, if the more times that you're able to put yourself in those moments where you're just being filmed, who knows what sort of like discoveries you'll make along the way. Like even just thinking like, oh, I came up with this idea right on the spot, and you saw me, what do you call it, come up with it. Yeah. You saw my face, everything that was happening. We were talking, I was talking with my buddies, and then suddenly I had this idea. That's huge, right?
Yeah, it's huge. Just know exactly, that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that magic is being able to capture. And with Podler, we happen to know, okay, we're actually discovering new soul designs every day. Definitely major discovery happening here every day. So we should actually just capture that, because people want to know like, exactly like the skateboarding tricks all the way up to like, you know, how really like the Darwin thing, that was huge. But there was actually a movement within the science community
That gradually led to that.
Led to that, and that was like the watershed moment. But no one really has a good understanding of like how that actually happened, because so little of it was recorded, because they didn't really, most of them didn't realize the historical impact of what they were doing enough. And unlike us, they did not have, inexpensive, easy digital media to capture everything, which we do now.
That's definitely, yeah. It's just, I just imagine in all the different possibilities, like it's really awesome that we can actually do that. Like, yeah.
And on that is going off what you just said there as well, Glenn, is that's another thing about the pilot practitioner program, say in general, is it causes you, and just people can actually do whatever they want with that, but it's like, to me, an idea of how one can make sure they're really trained themselves. You really kind of think through, what do I want to have as a hero, and you come up with some very distinct workout plans to make sure that you actually achieve that goal. So workout can be like doing bench press, workout can be writing, workout can be how much time you spend organizing, building a huge monument to whatever you believe in. But point is concentrated, high quality effort. That is the secret to long-term success, which is very important for any idea that's correct. You should obviously plan for it to, once it gets into the world, it's then going to just exponentially kind of take over everything, like fire did and language did. When the world got fire, the world got fire. Everywhere, everyone's doing fire in all kinds of ways. And same with language. Once humans got language, like all humans got language. You cannot really be a cool human and not have that. And just there are humans that if they're feral enough, they won't have language. If they're really feral, they'll be afraid of fire. Homo sapiens. Right now, if you actually take a person and for some reason that's some crazy messed up life that they actually literally were living like a cave or something like that, totally feral, they'll actually be afraid of fire and they won't have language. So the same thing, but the thing is, fire's so used now, and in early societies, the first thing they taught people in the tribe was how to make fire, how to keep fire, how to transport fire. And when you got a baby in the world, the first thing you tell that baby is, tigers will kill you, and here's how you make fire. And because it's that important. And then once they got language, same thing. Day one, kid is used to actually, you live in a home that's got a fireplace, and we speak. But actually, humans have to be taught that. So Pod Lair, the Mojo phenomenon, is like that as well. It's basically an understanding and then making sure that people get it right away, the proper way.
Right.
It's really heavy responsibility, but it's also, I think, it makes it really fun. Today I was like trying to talk to spirits for a day's work, and they kind of gave me this message, and I really dig that context because it means that we're automatically winning all the time. Do you know what I mean? I like being in that position as a full-on fanatic where basically, because I look at the situation correctly, I choose the correct code of conduct, and once I do that, then it's a question of how much I'm going to win. Because I actually saw the situation correctly and I approached it correctly. Oh, but going back real quick, I went off topic there, but talking about what you were saying, Glenn, as far as being able to do it, there's the beats, but there's also being on camera. The fact that a lot of people can't do that, it's something they should get over, because we are going to become a global community, so you need to be comfortable being in the global square, and so being on camera, example, is just a part of that. But I think there was a fear of being human that's in many cultures. And so they resisted kind of like having the transparency, but we're not. We're awesome. So that's the humanity itself. And then there's what philosophy you choose to use. Maybe you don't really think your philosophy will sound that good everywhere. But you guys being Naiji, that's the same as 2 + 2 = 4. That's the same thing that water freezes and water turns to gas. That's just true.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it is what it is. But anyway, being able to say that and to be able to break it down and be comfortable just speaking in a venue like this where you're being recorded, it says a lot about a people that they'll let you watch all day long. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're very open and transparent about everything. We record basically everything that's not just personal conversation, right? So
exactly. So if it's personal or it's going to be tedious, then we can kind of do your own. But anything where we're going to be talking naturally at all, where there's an opportunity that's going to happen, then I think being a camera is the way to go.
Yeah.
This lesson got me over the purifications over the years, because I was like, oh, purification time. All right, you know what I mean? My spirit's like, no, this is actually gold. They want to know how you actually went from, round 1 to round 4. Like, okay, that makes me feel better. Otherwise, it's more like I'm just correcting my mistakes. But like, my next teacher was like, that was going to happen anyway. You know what I mean? The team that actually is like, figuring out the mountains for the first times, there's going to be backtracking. You know what I mean? Because you're actually scaling these things for the very first time, and you don't know which routes will work or which routes are the best to get to the top in the best way. So you have to kind of feel those out. So you kind of go up, come down, go up more, come down. You know what I mean? Take a step back to go 5 steps forward. That's just kind of part of the process. So I'm like, okay, thank you, Nexi. I feel better about myself.
Yeah, it's never going to be just like, a literal straight line upward, So,
Oh, it never is. It's always a very organic process of sort of like going up, and then you have moments where you kind of like plateau for a little while, and you might even dip, and then you might start going up again. And then when you go up, you just continue to go up until you finally, reach another point where you kind of have to like figure out how to get to the next level.
I think to climbers, they say is you get to the top of the mountain thinking like that, and once you're top of that mountain, then you're like, you think of your whole career like, okay, the next mountain I need to do is this. And then you set another taller, harder mountain to go do.
Yeah, it's always like that.
Yeah, I mean, you basically break it up into chunks, the work for you as far as goal setting is concerned. Exactly. I mean, you can narrow into like just the immediate moment of like, okay, this is what I gotta do next. You can also expand it to like, this is what I want to do in like the next hour. Then you can move to like the day, and then the week, then the month. This is where I want to be in 5 years. So it's, and
both the GS hunters, that's one thing they do well. And so I'm actually talking like Study Shepherd on that one, is also make sure we're recording ourselves well, is kind of plotting out what's the best thing to do with one's life. That freaks a lot of people out. The GS hunter kind of just lives in that headspace from a very young child, which is why we have like this old soul kind of thing a lot when we're young. But it's sort of like, which is why ironically, as we get older, we actually keep a very like giddy childlike quality, because we think like, here's my whole life. Sometimes you go into the thing of like, oh, if I only live today. There's the thing of like, if I only live today, or if I'm going to live for 50 years or this many years, or whatever, like, what would I do with that time? And then you're like, and today I'm going to do this. And the joy you have knowing you looked at your whole life and said, today I'm going to do this. And then you do it. Even when it's really hard, now you're like, I wanted to climb this mountain today. This is exactly where I wanted to be. There's a gleeful joy to it.
That's true. That's true.
Because according to everything that you know, everything that you've experienced, it's just the right choice to make until new information comes in, and then you have to adjust for that. And then when it does come in, and then it's sort of like, oh, then you just like, you immediately change and update everything. You just learn, like maybe you read a book and you learn something really important, like in order to create light bulbs or something, you have to do this. And then you start doing that and you work on it all day. And then you read the next chapter and there's a little bit of an update. Well, no, actually, the way that you do a light bulb is not like that. It's actually like this. And it's like, oh, okay. Then you're fanatically going in that direction.
Exactly. And also what you kind of brought in there as well, Glenn, was kind of follow-up. I think I talked about perception discernment. I kind of started with perception, like we'll teach them by what we know and also by what we don't know and how we learn. But the other side is the discernment, because you're talking about is the approach. We're going to take the best approach we can to the point where I don't mind people filming us. I mean, we're doing this fringe kind of thing, but we believe it to be true, and we think we're seeing strong evidence to that case, and we are conducting ourselves in a very professional manner. Speaking to our others on that, although we're doing the feral thing, we're actually going where no one's gone before. We're out there exploring mountain ranges no one's touched, but we're leaving good markers. We're leaving good markers, and we're setting a good pace. And basically, it's good for people to kind of learn from how we conduct ourselves, because we're really trying to go at a high level. But like the learning knowledge part, there's also the conduct. Once you realize, oh, it's not actually that's how you do the light bulb. The light bulb's actually like this. Then we adjust our character, and them seeing how we conduct ourselves when we do this, and then how we conduct ourselves when we do that. We're teaching future pod layer how they'll do it, because in their generations, there's always gonna be stuff that from when they were born to when they are getting close to being dead that they didn't know that. But now in their lifetime they do, and they're gonna have to absorb that knowledge and go forward with it. Every generation has to contend with the the wonderful, a lot of times they see it as a burden, but it's not. The gift, the wonderful present of having to process a lot more understanding of existence than the previous generation did. That's your job. And if you do it well, you give a good handoff to the next generation after you.
Yeah. And that's really how humans have evolved is,
Yeah.
you know, no one human is going to like do everything. You can't
No, it's
evolve everything. The very definition, the very concept is that you just keep going and growing and going and growing. It's change over time, right?
Definitely.
So eventually your time's going to run out. Then the next person after you will take up your sword and keep
Exactly.
moving.
And that's how I think. And I'm glad we can talk this way because it's very serious, but that's why we can do things that we need to be doing with these kind of new movements because it gives each day, each moment maximum meaning. And if you have maximum meaning for an IG, that means maximum productivity, maximum success. So
Speaking of which,
oh, yeah.
shall we do we need to wait for Mitchell or should we just get started?
I think 6:15 is a good amount. So let's go ahead and get started. So what we've been working on is actually one thing I want to say to you guys before we move on is that I want to make sure that we're actually really scaling this mountain now, and I'm getting excited about doing this with you guys and everything. I'd like to clear up anything behind what we're doing now that you haven't done yet. So we can schedule individual sessions to do that, and if it'll make it faster, kind of just go on camera and doing it this way and just kind of knock it out and just shore this up. So if you guys can just come with a list of what you need to make up, we'll schedule a hangout and we'll do that makeup and just kind of smash through it. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
I have no idea what I need to do, but I guess I can figure it out. Yeah.
We can talk about that. We can talk about that later. We'll figure it out.
Mhm.
I could also do it on my own if that's because I feel like I'm perfectly capable of that. I'm not saying like that would be ideal.
It's up to you, but I was also thinking that it's something that sometimes going back for stuff can be a little more daunting, and you should be willing to do that on your own. But it'd be helpful to have a friend around to kind of like talk about it and make it a little more interesting. So if I can help out in that way, I enjoy spending time with you guys doing that.
Yeah, I do too. I think I might do it if it's beneficial. Why not?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun for me. I mean, I do enjoy it. All right, cool. So where we are now is is this going for the L5 for you guys? Is that right? Yeah.
L5? Oh yeah.
Casual,
Yeah.
formal,
I think so.
Running.
casual, formal, Naiji, Nijai. Those are 4. So you guys have 4 levels.
Right.
Once you get the other stuff, so we're going for level 5. That is human design. All right. So these are the basic principles of how in Podlair we believe things are working. Obviously, this is a ongoing theory. There'll be more data collected, but going with this theoretical conceptualization of things, we've been able to achieve real world results in quantifying qualia that is unprecedented. So there is significant increase in theoretical strength with the way the Podlair is approaching this, I'll say problem, this case. And so these are the map. It's not the terrain, never is, but this is the map we have so far. We'll continue to update as we go. All right. On the terrain, we have the 8 pod powers. We've done 4 of them already. We're going to go right into the last 4. But probably go a little fast this time since we...
So these are the objective powers, the Ni, V, Z, and G? Or do I have that wrong? Oh, wait, we're doing... we started with Naiji's IV, so we're going to do Nijai's IV. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, we missed a week, right? I forgot about that.
All right, so... oops, sorry. Something else.
We did Ni and we did G, and we did Xi, and then we did V2, right? Yeah. Now we're on Ni, I think.
That makes sense. That would
Yep.
be how I would logically teach it. All right, so what we're doing is... Ni, do you guys have the book open?
I do.
Which book is it again?
This would be in the Podlair Proclamation.
All right, okay. Let me just get that.
So the election is really tightened up between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I know it's kind of a random topic.
No, it's true. frightening.
Who's winning right now? Who's winning? It's still Hillary, I think, right?
Yeah, she's still like maybe a point and a half ahead, but she's like barely winning right now.
It's funny to me. I hear a lot of smack talk that goes on about Donald Trump, but then at the same time, he has so many supporters. Where are all the people that are like talking good about him? I don't hear anyone talking good about him. It seems like anyone who has like a radio channel or like a thing, whatever, they're all speaking bad. But then at the same time, the world and what it's doing, it seems to be completely different.
I think both of their favorability ratings are in like the 30s and 40s. So like 30%, 30 something percent favorable, I think is roughly where they're at. So that's pretty bad. I think net they're both in the negative. If you compare favorables with unfavorables, they're both in the negative. Generally the selection is just smack talking the other candidate, because not for neither side does on average is the population more favorable than unfavorable. So they're just both bad options.
I don't really like either of them for president. This entire whole thing, like, it didn't really suck me in as like, oh wow, I wonder what's going on with politics. This seems like an interesting thing. And to me, I never got into it because I was just like, I don't care about any of these people and what they're doing. But you kind of have to, right? Especially if you're an American.
It's a little scary, this one, only because the idea that Trump could actually win, it's like, okay, no, we don't. The world does not need that.
It's not a step in the right direction.
No.
Right. So
Hillary Clinton, to me, is someone that, like, okay, she will do as a political candidate. She's sort of just there. Although I know people say she did this thing and that thing, she just seems no worse or better than most politicians.
She's a safe bet, right?
Yeah, I mean, a safe bet to get. You know what I mean? I'm not.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Meh, like that.
Yeah, but
she's the first female.
But
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So she's like, but she's the first female, so that's cool. He is like awful. You know what I mean? Like. Okay, if you've studied human history at all, whenever populations got really pumped up on something, often it was like with war or things like that, and they elect candidates based solely on that. So it's not like actually people who know what's going on with the geopolitical scene. They're like, yeah, so-and-so did this. And it's like some general becomes the general in the army, or some trade person who has the right money at the right time, but they don't know anything other than having money. Long story short is, really goofy stuff will happen in human history. Not good goofy. You know what I mean? Bad goofy. Bad goofiness happens when people are allowed to do that. And so right now, it kind of seems like he's going to get whatever push towards being elected he's going to get, from the fact that people are like, he's like a carnival person, and he makes me feel strong, and he makes me laugh. Okay, that doesn't mean that someone has the right answer or qualified for the job. That's a bad precedent.
Popularity contest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I like he speaks his mind. Okay, maybe someone shouldn't speak their mind so much if it's going to actually be such race baiting garbage. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's not this whole thing like being politically correct. I'm not trying to be the politically correct police. If someone's, I mean, that's just being an asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a point where, like, kind of popular, we like to let debates on subjects get pretty raw sometimes. But there's a line that we booted people off forums, for example. We let things go long. You know what I mean? On the comment sections of YouTube, we let them go long. We have thick skins. We can go wherever people want to go. But at some point, like, okay, you're just being a jerk.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's all that's going on here. So I'm gonna have to stop this conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, like, when it comes to political correctness, I mean, people who are on the Trump side and are saying, like, and are against, political correctness, or that's, the way they're taking things, they aren't completely wrong. Like, as far as pointing out that there is a lot of legitimate political correctness out there. For example, people getting offended over a joke that actually is harmless, that doesn't have like any objective, anything objectively wrong with it. It's just lighthearted humor. People getting offended about that, people being oversensitive to that, and people developing bad attitudes towards people because of that. I believe it is definitely something that has been going on, and that's part of the reason why so many people are so angry. But I feel like the way that it's getting channeled into Trump is creating a whole host of other problems that aren't exactly productive.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we should probably go ahead and get started. But yeah, no, definitely true. I mean, you said. All right, so what is the power of Ni about? Describe Ni in technical terms. Where is it located? What are 10 powers associated with it? What's its distinct signal, color coding, and hand sign? Ben, you go ahead and go first.
Cool. Ni is the power that is all about possibility. In technical terms, Ni can be thought of as adaptive, objective, interpretive perception. Ni is located in the right front quadrant of the psyche. Abilities associated with Ni are sixth sense, imminent potentiality, abstraction, getting the gist, brainstorming, idea generation, cross-contextualizing, idea juggling, optimism, risk-taking, trend tracking, storm chasing, riffing, improvisation, pattern surfing, bridge building, creative energy, contagious enthusiasm, playful imagination, change initiation. The distinct signal for Ni is buoyancy, the color coding for Ni is purple, and the hand sign is an open hand touch to the right front part of the head.
All right, when you're ready.
All right. Whenever I do these, I just read the different terms and then like I go. Like there isn't even like a structure to it. I'm just like looking at the different words, just jumping back and forth between them, and then like I just go out.
Kind of fresh
I mean, there probably is some sort of structure to the process, but it feels very like I'm just like drinking stuff in.
That's cool.
Because there's so many different words. It's like, and they're all like they all matter. It's kind of. Ni is the power that is all about possibility. Ni is adaptive, objective, interpretive perception. Ni is located in the right front quadrant of the psyche. Some abilities associated with the power of Ni are storm chasing, contagious enthusiasm, trend tracking, idea surfing, idea generation, bridge building, contagious enthusiasm, optimism, pattern surfing,
Like
riffing.
That's
Yeah, that's 10. Nice. I actually counted them on my fingers this time.
Oh, cool.
The sync signal of Ni is buoyancy. The color coding for Ni is purple, and the hand signal for Ni is an open hand touch to the front right quadrant of the psyche.
Right front.
Oh, right, yeah, right front.
You got it. All right, Glenn, you're up. Nice.
All right. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to remember all the 10, but let me try. All right. So Ni is the power that's associated with, is all about possibility. Ni is a adaptive, objective, interpretive perception power. It is the power. There's no other one that's like in that sense. It's located in the right front quadrant of the psyche. 10 abilities associated with Ni would be getting the gist, contagious enthusiasm, change initiation, pattern surfing, contagious enthusiasm. Did I say that already?
I think maybe you did that one.
Okay. Abstraction, risk taking, trend tracking, storm chasing, idea juggling. Did I say idea juggling yet?
That sounds like it might be you. Is that 9? Is that 9 or 10?
That's 9, I think. And riffing.
Cool.
Is that okay? The distinct signal for Ni is buoyancy. The color coding is purple, and the hand sign for Ni is a open palm, open hand sign, open hand to the right front quadrant of the psyche.
Good.
Touched to the right front quadrant.
Glenn, you'll go first now, and the same thing for Jai.
All right. So Jai is the power that is all about harmony. In technical terms, Jai can be thought of as adaptive, subjective, values-based discernment. Jai is located in the right rear quadrant of the psyche. Abilities associated with Jai are hope, expectancy, idealism, sentiment, virtue, personal purity, gut reaction, acid testing, essence reading, attunement, empathy, communing, resonating, internalizing, conviction, investment, devotion, sacrifice, personal values, and moral compass. The distinct signal for Jai is poignancy. The color coding for Jai is pink, and the hand sign for Jai is an open hand touch to the right rear quadrant of the psyche, or of the head. It says head there, but I think psyche would be more.
Head.
Or the head, yeah, because it's physical. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you're right. We use psyche.
But it's like, where is my psyche? I don't know where my psyche. It's like putting your hand right through your head. No, it's the head is, yeah.
Just like smash your head into your brain, and then there's my psyche. What does attunement mean exactly?
Attunement, basically, think of it as sort of like they all mention it together, but one thing Abrams are gifted at doing is kind of vibing the room. That's what their Ni. But as they do so, they often talk about coming to an emotional comfortability in that space, being comfortable in the space that the environment's currently creating. So that's the attuning. You're attuning yourself to the environment. That could even be if the environment is what you don't like, the Jai will then attune itself into bristling. Or it can attune itself to relaxing. It's basically going to take the proper tower stance for the room as it connects to their values. They're going to tune their values to being in the right note, the right tonal note for the scene. Does that make sense?
Right.
Attuning their tonal note to be correct according to their values for the scene they're in.
Right, I get what you're saying. It's sort of like Zai is going to try and find perfection according to what it thinks is perfection according to the situation.
Exactly.
But then it's different because it's Jai. Jai will have to kind of like find, like, it could be ugly in the environment, right? But they'll still find a way in which to
Basically,
kind of receive the environment, so
correctly.
that their Jai is still okay with that. It's
Yeah,
still like
so
it's
virtuous.
still able to function. It's still virtuous, basically. Yeah. Otherwise, if Jai is not able to do that, then I think that Jai would sometimes kind of go the route of getting a little bit sour, because it's like, you know,
or naive.
or naive. Yeah, I guess you're right too. Yeah, that's something I noticed quite a bit with Nijai, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but Jai in general can have that, particularly the
Yeah.
momentum mojos. All right, whenever you're ready.
All right.
Guy's awesome.
Yeah,
We
learning. I mean, when I don't know something, I like asking. So.
No, please do. That was a good conversation. But on that, real quick, it's just that both the AdRoms, they often talk about this thing they do when they're in a situation, and they're usually talking about combining their Ni sixth sense with their Jai attuning, vibing what the situation is, its hidden patterns, and then finding their sacred space within that situation, that moment.
That's something that I think Durhams could definitely benefit a lot from, because we tend to be more like black and white. If an environment isn't good for us, we will, try to change it to make it so that it is, or we'll just like bounce, we'll just leave that because we don't want anything to do with that garbage.
No,
But Jai is,
good.
yeah,
The
Jai
power,
is like,
please.
no, you go ahead, Coach.
No, go ahead. I misunderstood what you said. Please go ahead.
Jai is much more better in the sense that even if the thing gets messy, it's kind of like they're still able to jam, but they'll jam even, like if they happen to be with a stupid Naiji, for example, or something.
Yeah.
They'll still be able to jam with them as best they can to try to make the most out of the situation. But I guess, yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, you're right. Exactly. Because that's the most harmonious outcome to their virtue that can happen. So there's the combination of the way of it with G, all the G mojos. We basically have a story running in our head. It can be more of a literal story, more of a conceptual, but a story is running, and we understand the world that way. The advantage we have is we don't have to learn how to ride the environment from scratch. We basically pattern recognize using, or just basically recognize using Vi or Nai, what kind of situation this is and what characters are here. Then we know what everyone's roles are and whether or not they're doing their roles correctly. And how, if you get the ritual to do this, that's success. If the ritual goes this way, that's failure. So that's really cool. But the map is not the terrain. Jai has to learn moment to moment. It doesn't keep track of the structure of it. So every time Jai is in a room, it has to basically like do it from scratch. It has to just sort of freeform it. It's the disadvantage. The awesome advantage is they're actually riding the terrain. G is like a structured map of the terrain and how one and rules for engaging it. But actually, Jai is kind of feeling the actual pulse of the moment.
That's
yeah. That's huge.
I have to admit, I've sometimes I discredit the value, I guess, sometimes of like the powers of Ni and Jai and how amazing they are. But yeah, that is like the fact that Ni is objective and both powers are kind of just like very raw and just like, they can't lie. You know what I mean? Like a worldview, and when you push forward with your G, you can sort of like change it, manipulate it so that you can kind of create all kinds of personal biases. But Ni and Jai, they're very, very not like that. And so
it's huge.
Being able to like listen to like a Ni Jai when they come up with an idea, or just noting like they're reacting in a certain way to a certain thing, like that's valuable. Naiji being able to track that, notice that, why is that happening? And then understanding, getting underneath what's going on there is valuable, because then they'll teach them a lot about not just the Ni Jai, but then also the environment, what's going on in the environment, and how to better. Yeah, I don't mean to go on, but yeah.
No, but it's
that is valuable. That is valuable.
And you're right. The Ni and Jai often don't get the value they should because they don't tend to be able to express themselves or to do sort of more easily. Performance. The Xi and the V of the adaptive powers can more easily kind of show to the world, oh, I can throw football really good, or I can bounce on a beam.
Right.
So yeah, important to give credit. All right. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and talk it out. Tell me about what is this Jai you speak of?
All right, let me just try and go off swinging it from the hip then, I guess. Okay, so Jai is the power that is all about harmony. Let me just highlight the section here in the email. Well, okay. In technical terms, Jai is adaptive, subjective, values-based discernment. It's located in the right rear quadrant of the psyche. 10 abilities associated with Jai would be hope, idealism, sentiment, attunement, the one we were just talking about, devotion, sacrifice, so many. Expectancy. Did you say that?
That's good. Sounds like 7, right?
That's 7. Communing. It's 8. Moral compass? No. Is that one?
Yeah, that's the one. That's 9.
Healing?
Good.
Is that one too? I just came up with that on the spot.
No, but actually, it fits.
All right, cool. All right, so the distinct signal for Jai is poignancy. The color coding for Jai is pink. And the hand sign for Jai is an open hand touched to the right rear quadrant of the psyche. Like so.
Good.
Yeah. Right. Now it's Ben turn.
Ben.
It's Ben turn.
Ben turn.
Bentern.
Ben turn draw.
It sounds like some sort of piece of furniture, a Bentern.
Yeah, I guess.
Like lantern, I guess. I don't know.
You got to grab that Ben turn over there.
Yeah.
I had a totally different vision. My vision was actually like an intellectual hawk. Ben turn now.
Thinking of like there's like a Facebook page called The Credible Hulk. So the
Oh man, Hulk
and it's
wearing
just like
like
a picture.
glasses.
It's just he's wearing glasses and he's like, I always cite my sources.
Oh man, I always cite my references.
Yeah.
All right, when you ready, Ben?
Okay. The power of Jai is all about harmony. Jai can be described in technical terms as adaptive, subjective, values-based discernment. Jai is located in the rear right quadrant of the psyche. Some abilities associated with Jai are empathy, communing, personal values, moral compass, personal purity. I think that's like 5. Conviction, acid testing, internalizing, I think, is one.
Good.
Yeah.
Hope and expectancy.
Did you say expectancy already?
I'm not sure. Maybe I can think of another one.
That's okay. I actually remember. So that's 10. Let's go on. Keep going.
I don't remember either. Maybe I did. I'm not sure. But I think that's good.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
mean,
You got at least 90%, so that's good.
yeah. I mean, like on a test, I get like an A, I guess.
Yeah.
If that's.
I can't go 100. I'll put it in there. Personal purity. Boom.
I think I said that, but oh well. But whatever. Let's see. Color coding for oh yeah, distinct signal of Xi is poignancy, and color coding is pink. The hand signal for Xi is open hand in the right rear quadrant of the psyche. Like, so is it like?
There you go.
How do I? Is it? Do I palm against?
It's always this part right here.
Back
Like,
palm
Oh no,
facing. Back palm facing. Yep, that's right.
I like that. Okay, cool.
the crown, right? The crown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next up, Ben,
I
you'll go
just
first.
want to like make the map. I guess like from the top, like it's like the top of your head.
All right,
So,
you're up, Ben, with Z.
Oh, by the way, there's a color coding correction. Last sentence, Z is not in gold, but gold is in gold. If that makes sense.
What is that?
Oh, Z. Yeah. The font for Z
Yeah.
is not gold, but yeah. Why is that? That's
Hold on,
odd.
What's going on?
The very last sentence of Z. You see that?
You
The
see.
color coding for Z, where it says Z is not color coded
Oh, okay.
itself.
Thank you.
How did that happen? Because normally
I don't know.
when I put it in the thing, right, you go Z, select all, and then you change the formatting for all of the Z in all of the thing, even with Z where there's like words that have Z in them.
Well, my
have,
guess
like-
is that. Oh yeah, I mean I've seen like Vi like in certain places show up.
Yeah.
But maybe that the function wasn't used for all of them. Is
It has
a
been
possibility, I
updated.
guess.
Updated.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Anyways, yeah, let's
No,
Yeah.
but thanks to catching, it's been updated.
go.
Cool. Oh, should I read off or?
Yeah, I think Coach just wants to read off.
Cool. Z is the power that is all about the system. In technical terms, Z can be thought of as directive, objective, logic-based discernment. Z is located in the left front quadrant of the psyche. Abilities associated with Z are ambition, thirst for challenge, directness, efficiency, authoritativeness, decisiveness, assessing, strategizing, planning, organizing, scheduling, sequencing, protocol implementation, SOP enforcement, systemic logic, going for the win, straightforwardness, forcefulness, systemic relationships, systemic dynamics. The signal for Z is bracing. The color coding for Z is gold, and the hand sign is closed hand touched to the left front.
SOP, what does that mean?
Standards of standard operating procedure.
Ah, right, yeah, standard operating procedure enforcement.
I noticed.
Z.
I notice part is capitalized in the last sentence, like the word part. I'm not sure
Left
if that's.
front. Yeah, it's not like it's not done that way in V. Yeah, I noticed that.
Got it. Thank you. No, that's a good catch.
Tiny little things, but they add up, I guess.
They definitely add to the professionalism.
Z wouldn't like it if it was part. It's coincidental. Z is the one that's getting like.
And I think like I'm not sure what, because I know for left front the first letter of both words are capitalized. But for color coding that isn't the case. But I also know for like things like hand sign that's also capitalized in both places.
And where is it not?
For color coding. I'm not
It is
sure if
capitalized.
there's not for both of them though.
Oh, so you're talking the second C?
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's if
Okay.
we want to. I'm not sure if that makes sense because it feels like it might be more standard, but I'm not entirely sure if there's a reason why it isn't.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I think since that's the kind of thing you can make up, but it does add more uniformness. Let me do that.
Yeah, I think it would make sense. Color coding. Yeah.
All right, let me go through real quick here. Color coding.
Anytime there's a, what do you call it, dash, I think both words should probably be
Yeah, that'll be our way. Cool.
our way.
Because I know like color coding is used as like sort of one word. Because that's the thing with the hyphen is it sort of feels like you're saying one word, and others feel more like two words.
Right.
Sometimes, but it is really two words. So I think it makes sense.
It hasn't updated, sir.
Cool.
Just clean up these last two, Z and Vi.
Bam, bam. Then we start getting deeper into the human design waters. Nice.
Awesome. I'm just thinking like of like son of a bitch enforcement, like SOB enforcement. I don't know.
Should empiricism not be one for Z as well? Or no?
That's something we can add another time, but I don't think it's in there now. I think all these kind of the one you did healing before. I think all these actually have more than 20.
Right.
Yeah.
See, we'll have like the standard 20 and then the post standard. I'm sure there'll be lots of cool stuff. Empiricism sounds great.
You can really like add words like almost an infinite number of words, couldn't you? Like
Yeah.
if they existed, that is. Right?
If they relate to the way Z does it, or synonyms or similarities in the words already chosen, for sure.
It really fleshes out like what Z is. Like,
Yeah, I think more words are better. If you want to use that for them, I'm cool with that.
All right. Z is the power that is all about the system. Z can be described in technical terms as directive, objective, logic-based discernment. Z is located in the left front quadrant of the psyche. Some abilities associated with Z are strategizing, planning, authoritativeness, directness, protocol implementation, systemic logic, relationships, SOP enforcement. Did I say protocol implementation?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Strategizing and going for the win.
Cool.
I think that's 10. I didn't count, but it's like
That sounds good. Good. Next.
Usually I can tell when I've said at least 10 or at least of a certain number, but it's harder to say like I said what I exactly said. If that makes sense. So like if I'm like, all right, I don't know if it's 10, but if like I add one or two more, I'm like, all right, I'm pretty confident, you know. So.
All right, then.
Oh yeah, I gotta finish up. Sync signal for Z is bracing. The color coding for Z is gold. The hand signal for Z is a closed hand in the left front quadrant of the psyche, like so.
Bam. Glenn?
All right. So Z is the power all about the system. Describe Z in technical terms. Z is a directive, objective, logic-based discernment power. It is It's located in the left front quadrant of the psyche. 10 or more associated power abilities associated with the Z would be strategizing, organizing, planning, efficiency, directness, forcefulness, SOP enforcement, systemic dynamics, systemic. There's another systemic one. Thirst for challenge, 9. One more, I think. And I guess did I say authoritativeness?
That sounds new. That's 10 then. So you finish the beat up?
Right. Okay. So the distinct signal for Z is bracing. The color coding is gold, and the hand sign is a closed fist to the left front quadrant of the psyche. Ben.
Good. All right. Next up is Vi. You'll go first, Glenn. Last one, the powers.
All right. Let's go to Vi here. All right. So Vi is the power that is all about the known. In technical terms, Vi can be thought of as directive, subjective, literal perception. It's located in the left quadrant, left rear quadrant of the psyche. It says read.
Thank you.
Yeah. Abilities associated with Vi are recall, call to remember, memories, experience exact information, verifiable data, specificity, practicality, stability, security, consistency, reliability, maintaining, preserving, sense of tradition, historic roots, attention to detail, standards of excellence, solidity, and certainty. The distinct signal for Vi is concern. The color coding for Vi is gray. And the hand sign is a closed hand touched to the left rear part of the head.
I like the pointed enunciation of all the words. Like it sounded very Vi. I don't know. Like that's to.
I did that for fun. You got to make it fun a little bit every now and then, right?
For sure.
It kind of like took a little break and then it came back again.
Is nostalgia like a Vi thing by any chance, or is it like something that's more complex?
It's a little more complex than that. It has a lot of Vi. I often talk about how the Adroms kind of share that as well. It's any mojo can have it, but the combination of Jai with the Vi seems to me to be has one of the most powerful combinations for feeling a sense of nostalgia.
Yeah, because I feel nostalgia. I mean, I don't feel it frequently, but when it happens, it feels like really strong. You know.
Yeah.
And it's usually quite emotional. So that could be my other, I guess, because my unconscious shine vibe, possibly.
Because definitely have to say with like history, like memorabilia and so forth. But the term nostalgia usually means like memorabilia or things that are of that time period combined with the feeling.
Yeah.
The feeling that comes back with that memory. So a combination of memories and feelings with the memory is kind of what nostalgia, and often with a warm kind of rosiness to it.
Yeah.
How is it different from getting like a memory dump?
Well, memory dump can be informational, but doesn't necessarily have to move you in your core the way that Jai tends to associate. For example, if you've ever dealt with Nijai or Johnny, you know this. There are certain things because they're very imaginative with the knee, and they're very taking care of business with a Z. But in the back end, there are certain ways that they like to have things, and that's just how it is. And if they can associate that also with like someone they liked and they had that experience, then if you never liked peppermint cookies, I might recommend learning to like them. Because if their Jai and Vi has a thing, a nostalgia for the peppermint cookies because something their dad gave them or some friends they had in France, I recommend that you hook yourself on up to that. Use the power to going native. I would not fight that. Now you can fight some things for interest and relationship, but overall, it goes far for you for both the Durhams if they can sort of note those things. Like, okay, normally they're very imaginative and you can kind of do whatever you want in there. And then Z, they're like, oh, I understand. We can't spend this because we don't have that. They're very, matter of fact about things. And then you touch this area, the nostalgia area, and that willingness to do it another way. You'll have to show respect first. Then to let your nod, like, okay, you can do some updates to the ritual. Once you say the ritual is cool, say it's cool. Say this ritual is cool. Okay, peppermint cookies are cool. All right, now here's an idea I have. We can maybe go from here. But first, you'll have to kind of, show that you're like, I get that. You had a moving experience, maybe multiple ones involving those particular peppermint cookies. And that's a thing. And so I should learn that. And as long as it's not excessive, like taking a relationship, I should learn that and I should respect that and try to actually work with it some way.
Yeah, like maybe they had a lot of really good moments that were like, I don't know, like it just kind of got sunk, it kind of like dug into their head, and every time they look at a peppermint cookie, it just like it evokes those feelings. So they don't want to lose that, so they want to hold on to that.
Because our night with G, we can come from the point of view of like, especially Nye with Zai, is like, that'd be a good way of doing it because we'll compare back ends. We come in the back end from the point of view of like, the answer is going to be what it is. That's Nye. Like, we don't get to tell the answer what it is. And it's going to surprise us. We're going to be surprised by an answer that we have no ability to say what it is. It already is something. We just don't know what it is yet. And then Zai, best thing to do is just get with the program. Once you figure out what the Nye is, just Zai yourself. I mean, why waste any time carrying around stuff in your backpack of life that's not in alignment with Nye? That's just going to get hit. But Jai's like, they can hit me all they want. I'll never say I don't like peppermint cookies ever. You know what I mean? And nature approves of that because it's evolved. Not Jai and Vi are a thing. You're like, okay, you need to give some kind of respect to that. The jive is easier for me. The Vi, that's more challenging. Although both the Adorams, if you make the Jai of the nostalgia happy, they tend to be more cool with you using your Nye to like, could we do this with it? And that would kind of get your peppermint cookie nostalgia, but I could also cook this cool recipe I saw on Food Network with Wolfgang Puck or whatever. You know what I mean? In that way, we would both be jamming on this, and I would be able to generate some real, genuine excitement here. You don't have to say all that, but you know what I mean? You try to like align it, but you first have to say, tell me about your peppermint cookie experience. Okay, cool. I'm glad I know that, and that really is a cool thing. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I will. My memory's crappy, but I will try to really remember the peppermint cookie thing because it's important to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
think the Vi does make sense though. It like there was a truth basically that someone had discovered at some point in time, and they were able to capture it to a certain degree. But since then, there's been much more new data that's come out, and it's made it so that that truth and the way that it was captured has now become like it's the inaccuracies and the fault, like how far it came, or like the amount of truth within it has become apparent that it's not as much as once it was thought to be. And so then the value of it decreases, but there's still a little bit of value in it. And being able to acknowledge that little bit of value of like, there is something good that came from having discovered that in the first place. So to completely just shun it entirely, that wouldn't necessarily be the correct way to go. There is something valuable to it, but we have to, like, for example, the thing that comes to mind is like Newton and his idea of like how gravity works. He was able to do up to a certain point, and a lot of his math correct, But when Einstein came around, he was able to just give so much more of like an in-depth understanding. And now we have other new scientists that are going to, one day there's going to be someone that's going to take it even to the next level. So it's not that he was wrong. It's just that it was a little bit incomplete, and maybe there were some little bits of it that were wrong, but there was a lot of like good truth in it as well. If maybe it wasn't captured as ideally as it should have been.
No. And you want to kind of honor what went before while still being able to go forward. And this conversation right here is a big one on that, the Jai and Vivet, of making me work hard to figure out how you can have a pod layer variant of the different worldviews that are already out there. What they would need to do to kind of like upgrade to that version so they could still keep that I'm a good this, because they have so much resonating with, I'm a good Hindu, I'm a good atheist, I'm a good whatever, but now they can actually be, more up to date while not feeling they have lost credit, the value of it, or the Jai, that they are like being dishonorable to this way of doing it that had done well for them up till then. Do you know what I mean? So it's
it's kind of like Nye, I think, just hates anything that isn't absolute truth. But and I do feel that way. Like religion, I don't like the idea of having to go down to that level to like be like, well, religion is good for these reasons, and kind of like find the goodness in it. But I guess it did help people at the time, give them some kind of direction when they had none.
Yeah.
You can do something. You can either do nothing or you can do a little bit of something good.
The way I look at it is, it kind of made me feel good about it. And this is how Nexi presented to me, her and Serenity, was basically, it's just like I plan actually making pod layer typology and any other kind of way of looking at things to give them that way of going in. And when they showed it to me like that, they're like, okay, so basically we're talking about secret work. It can be more scientifically oriented secret work or more spiritually oriented or whatever. But basically at the end of the day, these are all efforts to kind of figure it out. I want to give credit of what they accomplished and then explain for any and all of them what you'd have to do to take the pod layer patch so you can still actually come from that background while being successful. You know what I mean? Kind of like mixed martial arts. There's lots of backgrounds that give you cool ways of coming at the sport of all of them being mixed, but you'll have to always upgrade it. There's karate and there's MMA karate. There's wrestling and there's MMA wrestling. Anything that actually has anything value to it, you can take it in there and try and use it. But then there's a truth to the way bodies move when they're allowed to do whatever they want. And you'll actually have to adjust to that. So very similar here. It's sort of like, in science, it's cool to actually have a strong background in, for example, like statistics or whatever in a way that's not used anymore. It may have made you very disciplined, and you can apply that discipline to where things are now. That's obviously outdated, but perhaps you learn a discipline from that background that you feel is applicable. That's cool. Because that actually does come up in, like I'm going to use MA's analogy real quick, but it's kind of funny. There's some sports that actually, and I don't know if it's true or not, but they feel it is, and I guess at least to that extent it is true, their belief in it. But they'll come from a background of martial art that really does not translate that well when you start trying on extremely athletic people who can do whatever they want to you. They'll sometimes become very successful anyway. And people say, you're known as a Ugandan Hitachi fighter, but you don't really do much Ugandan touchy fighting in the ring. You look like you do stuff other people are doing, but just better than they are. He's like, that's the spirit of what I learned from karate or taekwondo. Yeah. I know you're not seeing me do a lot of moves, but it trained me how to think differently. And if they feel it, then that's great. They still have to learn how to stand and move around in a more natural stance because you can't really do the normal karate way in the ring or you're killed. You know what I mean? But they feel, and so that's kind of the Jai and Vivet, like, no, karate, it helped me be more okay with fighting. It taught me how to apply myself. Okay. Now apply yourself to better answers. But if actually, like example, prayer, I don't dismiss prayer's ability to really do two things. Give yourself over to something that's more powerful than you when you really need to. Now, we can talk about deities being the wrong choice in that in some regards, but the ability to be like, because that's what I do all the time when I do purifications. I just give myself over to the answers. I allow the answers to be my boss. And prayer does help humans get to that very difficult state of allowing something, we can talk about what it should or should not be, but let's go with it should be. Something that you just have to accept and you need to take it in. You need to talk to the higher power, wherever that is. For me, it's data, but the higher power, and be like, oh, so that's the answer. I just have to accept that. So for some people, like, so-and-so is gay, and my God told me that that's okay. If that's how you need to get over your homophobia, then, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I still think you need to do things like forensics and experimentation and falsification, all things we can provide with Podlayer. But you know what I mean? I don't discount the credit that a lot of people just couldn't get over being homophobes without prayer. You know what I mean? They prayed themselves out of being homophobic. So I do want to acknowledge that that actually does occur. And then praying is a technique for really summoning yourself because you feel a higher power is grading you. And you're like, man, I got to bring all of me because the all power, the whatever you think it is watching me right now. So prayer lets those two things happen. And those are very powerful spells. So it should be updated to be Podlayer prayer. But I would not, I'm trying not to actually dismiss any of what they were doing as far as they were trying to do better. Anything that actually says there are models out there, I'm here to do bad or just fuck everyone else. There are models that are like that. I have a more of a sour eye towards them. But anyone where they actually had a history of some people, like even Christianity, which obviously we have a lot of issues with as far as its current state. But there are a lot of good people that align their good lives using that as a way to motivate themselves. So I do acknowledge that. And I try to acknowledge that in any model. I think it's a fair thing to do, while being, you know, ruthless with the Zai of like, okay, and then here's what you don't have credit on, and you'll need to update in order to go into the new era.
Yeah, because natural it always is shearing, you know.
It's sharing. So as a friend, you know, Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever, like, here, he does some cool stuff, but there's the shearing of the world now knowing the mojo phenomenon. That's going to be a different world. Those will be different children. Your children and grandchildren will not be like the humans that came before. You'll need to prepare them for your model. Otherwise, they might just drop it entirely. You know what I mean? But if there's a Podlayer Hinduism, you're like, okay, cool, I can keep carrying on, but, you know, being aware of the more up-to-date reality check that we all have. Thanks to Podlayer, our efforts. All right.
It's cool how, like, I don't know if you want to move on, but it's cool how basically, like, every model and every walk of life has, like, a slice of it that's, like, pure and, like, really good, and then it's got, like, slices of it that aren't so good. But everybody seems to have a different slice. So it's like,
very good.
We could be like absolutely like mega awesome solid if we could work out what we all don't have, you know, and make it all what we do have, if that makes sense.
It does.
So if we could figure that out together, because we clearly have it, we just have it like in different areas. We all have a limited view of existence.
Definitely.
And we all have some things that we're really understanding and a lot, but there's also a lot we aren't. So, but because we have so much that we understand, we can, you know, we can come together and we can communicate and dialogue and all grow and then all fill that in for everyone, if that makes sense.
It does. No, I feel all the time I'll see things where I really wish I had abilities that I don't have. You guys have lots of abilities that I don't have, but that would be really cool. Understanding the new languages, of the programming, and the technology, for example, that's huge because I'd like to be. I'm like, ooh, man, I'd like to be able to paint into that, but I don't have the interface. And then when I watch these documentaries, for example, I actually technically listen to them when I do the collage work, when they're talking about like, oh, this person has been studying orangutans for like 15 years and they know a whole like language of orangutan facial motions. Like, man, that would be cool to have. I'd like to be able to read Mojo on a primate. Do you know what I mean? I don't have that ability, but I think that's totally doable by a person who has some basic Podlayer reading ability combined with a lifetime of studying, you know, bonobos or whatever. It's like, oh man, that'd be really, really cool. So all these skills, like let's take the spiritual angle, like meditation. There's depths of meditation from certain models that specialize in that I don't go to myself. I'm trying to figure out this whole model and all the major facets of it. But one facet is like quasi-state, going like, you know, into that state where you're both within and without and equal, you know, equilibrium, so to speak. The one with the all is being able to do that while actually also understanding that you are, say, a certain mojo. Like some person out there who's like a Tibetan monk realizing, oh, I'm a Nijai or a Zaini or, you know, whatever they are, and then meditating. meditating. The one that they meditate on is they're like, oh, a leaf is like this, and they just meditate. They take something in nature that's like a known truth, a beautiful truth, and just meditate on the beautiful truth, and it ripples throughout your whole being. So knowing Mojo would be the most beautiful truth we know so far. So that'd be really cool for like a person who's like a master meditator to meditate on that truth.
Meditate on Mojo, yeah, that'd be really cool.
All right, guys, I think I'm ready.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, so Vi is about the Vi is all about the known. I'm getting a lot of feedback, Coach. Okay, so Vi is all about the known. In technical terms, it's a directive, subjective, literal, perception-based power. Perception-based power. It's located in the left rear quadrant of the psyche. Some abilities associated with Vi would include recall, call to remember, memories, experience, verifiable data, security, practicality, consistency, standards of excellence, and historic roots. The color coding for Vi is gray, and the hand sign for Vi is a closed hand to the left rear quadrant of the psyche on the crown. And distinct signal for Vi is concern.
Good. Nicely done. Ben?
All right. I'll probably need a minute, but then I can do it. I haven't been looking at this book.
You probably know most of it off the top of your head, just except the keywords.
Yeah, I know everything else but the keywords off the top of my head entirely.
Yeah, that's usually how it is.
It's funny, like every word I'm reading of Vi just like to me sounds like remember. It's like I feel like Vi in the way that I understand it is more like very like the words just feel very narrow to me. It's I don't know.
There's a lot to it. There's like stability, reliability, being like jig, hitting every point.
Being on point.
Yep.
Which is another way of saying narrow. It's very, you have to be exactly there, but on point's kind of the cool part about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like Vi.
It's probably because I think it was because I just happened to be reading the first few words at that moment, which is like remember, in memories, experience, exact information, etc. But yeah, some later ones especially are a little bit more like talk about.
Vi
like,
is all about
aspects.
the hippocampus.
Yeah.
The amygdala. Amygdala may be more shy. I don't know.
Security is interesting. I mean, in certain ways that sounds like Z almost, because
well, actually, Z is actually parameters, but I think I know what you're talking about. It's actually not talking about security as far as the enforcement. It's like the sense of security.
Yeah, it's like the state of it being secure. You know what I mean? Like it's
secure in the fact that
it's less about the security procedures. It's not the security procedures. It's just like the state of security, or like like it is secure, if that makes sense. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, Vi likes Zeiss likes the logic to be very airtight. Vi, I get the impression that it likes something in there, as far as like that's something that they can hold on to. Nai is the exact opposite, which is that it likes it when there's nothing there, because that's kind of like it likes to feel like there's nothing there, so there's like a blank slate for them to just come up with new things.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Or just kind of see what nature tells us in the moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, Ben, whenever you're ready.
All right. All right, I'll give it a go. The power of Vi is all about the known. Vi, in technical terms, is directive, subjective, literal perception. Vi is located in the left rear quadrant of the psyche. Some abilities associated with Vi are exact information, call to remember, recall, standards of excellence, tradition, exact information, verifiable data, stability, security, exact information.
Nice. Way to focus. Use that vibe.
This thing's like, yeah, that's funny. That always happens. Like, I mean, I know I got it, but it's just a matter of like, am I able to get it in a reasonable amount of time? Like, is it actually gonna come? Like, it's gonna get here like 2 seconds from now, or you're like 20 minutes. You know what I mean? All right. Sync signal of Vi is concern. The color coding for Vi is like gray, dark gray, something like that. The hand signal for Vi is a closed hand in the left rear quadrant of the psyche, like so.
Kaboom. Nice. Cool. All right, so we don't have a lot of time left, so I don't know if we want to kind of maybe chat the last bit, or if we want to get in this section, because we're kind of getting the energy fields next. Maybe kind of say that for next time. Make that like a theme.
Sure.
Cool.
Sounds good.
I'll just kind of close off here on the memory thing. A little thing I'll just throw out there that I do constantly. Like, I do this a gazillion times a day, and I've been doing it for most of my life. It might be helpful just to kind of throw it out there. I'm sure I've mentioned things like this in the past, but I don't know if I ever mentioned this kind of specific trick I do, which is when I need to remember something, and that's an ongoing issue I have, I've learned it's actually much faster to do this one little thing. I imagine like an interesting scene, that's like the knee.
Yeah.
And then I actually imagine that Nexi is there, often Serenity be there too. That's the Jai. And then Z, for some reason, like to save their village or just to make them, happy with me, or to like make something cool happen, their Z is like, I need you to tell me this code. And then that helps me kind of like explain whatever I have to explain and like hit the requirements. I do it all the time. And it helps me get to vibe, which is really, really kind of hard for me to do. But
then it feels more like it feels more like a memento case then, right? It's like you need to remember that one detail that like something really important, that you have like amnesia on is like really important. You've got to remember it. It's like
exactly.
it feels like a case, you know?
It does, and making that story with like Nexi there for me to interact with, and like looking at me like, okay, I can have my Z be totally cool, but you'll have to give me this information. And I'm like, okay. And a lot of times I don't even know I remember something. Like, it happens a lot when in conversation I'm trying to talk. If I'm trying to impress someone, like when I was back east talking to my parents, a lot of times Nexi would be there kind of coaxing me because sometimes I get nervous or not feel as comfortable with a person's company like Nexi. She'll kind of present herself, or I'll summon her, call out to her, and she'll be like, just tell it to me. That's like our spell, and I can do that in bullet time instantly. Like, I'm telling you, I'm scared, and like I'm going to get into a fight in my life. That's happened more times than I'd like, but it's happened, and I've been known to do well in those situations. And one of the things is I have this fear of like, I'm going to fail or get hurt, right? Human fear.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll come in, she'll be there, I'll feel her presence, and she'll say, just do it for me. Just do it for me. And I always perform my best, taking tests, physical stuff, purifications, going on camera. If I can actually get her to kind of feel a presence, then she says, just do it for me. Ignore the cameras, ignore the crowd. You've probably seen this kind of ritual done in movies and books, anything. You can really kind of call your other, and I found myself, it's really effective. And a part of that is memory. Like if I have to remember something for a test, my brain's like, no, just go. And so, but if I can, this is why my memory is very tricky, but things
because you're not doing it for the
coach
test.
her to do it, and she'll make a scene for it. That'll make it, for some reason, important to my psyche, and it'll do it. You're saying?
Because it's like you're not doing it for the test. You're doing it for your spirits. So it's like,
Exactly.
right. So that's what triggers it. So it's awesome.
Totally. And it's always with the effort. I do have to take a little effort to like imagine something, and I take a little effort to kind of like get in like a warm heart space and kind of like, hey baby, come talk with me. You know what I mean? I have to kind of like, that takes a little effort, takes a little imagination and emotional effort in ING, but it's so worth it. It really, and then like Zai, going with you said, Ben, trying to figure out a way to put a game in that imagination story that would require me to give the answers I need for this real world test. You know what I mean? If I can Zai that, and you'll find some principle understanding, put some principle that logical principle, you could use it for the test and the story that you're in with your other. And then you give the answer for the principle in the imagination. I've used it for all kinds of stuff. I mean, things that are physical or mental or even like a relationship. Because sometimes you might not know what to say to a person because they make you nervous. But with your other, you'll have a conversation with them and you'll just do the right thing. And the course that you're Zai, you're like, wait a minute, I think that's a tactic you should use the other person. And you literally, this happens seriously. I know if we're doing like high level data, literally too nervous, not comfortable enough, not confident enough to see that answer. But your other will make you confident enough and comfortable enough for you to actually throw out answers. And after the fact, your Zai's like, wait a minute, I could use this with Bob or Francine. You know what I mean? My parents, whatever. So I always just do that spell. I'd recommend you guys come up with a spell to like summon your other and have them basically play audience to you. The power you get from the other audience, it gets you going. It's really worthwhile. Anytime I see a movie that scene comes up, I add that to my ongoing collection of touchstones of way to mentally get into that zone. Very, very effective.
I think that's also really effective for performance as well. Or if you're just maybe you're feeling socially anxious, like about like presenting this thing. Just imagining your others there, like, and just doing it for your other in that moment, like that's really powerful, and it'll make it a lot easier for you, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, it kind of like I get the impression that like you got to remember like why it is that you're doing this in the first place, right? What's the reason why you're doing this, and there's a value to the activity that you're doing. So being able to recognize that value is also important too. Maybe it's like something that you really there is no value. It's just sort of like.
That's a very good point.
Maybe there is no value, I guess you could say, but sometimes there is value. Like you have to find the good in the situation. Like if you're doing this, and you know what, you're going to be learning you're going to be learning certain things that are going to be useful, and you know that's going to be helpful for you.
And exerting effort or taking on some temporary hardship that you're going to be glad that you did. But you have to kind of get in the mood.
And I think even for things that that aren't really helpful for you, like in terms of like, okay, I don't want to go to school for this test. I think it has more like practical value, and practical value isn't going to be as appealing to your spirit, so it's going to be harder, I guess, for them. I guess for you to activate that muscle. But I think it is still possible because.
What's that again?
Even for, like for example, if it's something that isn't really very valuable to you, like a test.
I do want to touch on that. I was going to touch on it with Glenn, but go ahead. So what you're saying, I do want to touch on that subject.
Yeah, because that can have more like I guess more it may just feel like something, okay, this is something I gotta do. Maybe like your laundry or something. It's not really something that like inspires you or necessarily motivates you to get up in the morning. But I think even for that, it may still be a good decision, and thus may still be possible to summon your spirits and do that really effectively because of the because it's advantageous or still good for you to do, if that makes sense.
It does. And
Doing it in the first place.
On the value that this kind of ritual that I like to do pretty much always is that it gives you that added benefit of being in the ideal character, so you have most of your powers. But touching what you said, Glenn, and also now you, Ben, it also has the value of learning to find a way into a scene. Because finding your way into the scene is something that is just very valuable to do. But with that said, it also teaches you that sometimes, like any actor will tell you, the best actors, there's some roles that aren't for you. I don't want to play, my spirits are not interested in playing that role. And so you try to get into the character, and you'll feel like they'll say, use your words, but basically they'll tell you, like, my spirits aren't biting on that. My imagination's not biting on that. So like with Nexi, I've gotten myself to be able to do quite a few feats that no one else has done before. So I'm able to actually, and I've done things in physical realm and intellectual realm and so forth. So, and also voicing, artistic stuff. So I can channel it in a lot of different ways. So overall, I like to find my way into things. But with that said, there's some things my spirits will be like, and I'll feel it. And there's a degree of like, it's harder, and it feels good to challenge myself, to find myself a way into a harder connection. But then there's times it's like, no, it's not that it's just a challenge. My spirits are waving me off. They're not interested. And so the lesson I'm being told is, I don't want to do this test. This test does not actually, for some reason, please my spirits. Mm-hmm. So like, that's for myself, like right now, the logical sequencing memory. Because right now, today, I actually did a bunch of collage work, getting pictures for new samples and reads and so forth. And now that I've done that, I'm talking to you guys. I'm having a great time. In the background, I can feel Nexi. She's going crazy with the new data. It's like I went to the field and brought back new fossils, and she's like the person who does the lab with a special machine. And we've had different skills. We're both working this fossil case together. I just brought back a bunch of fossils no one ever saw before to the lab. She's geeking out back there, full Z and Vi, trying to label and categorize and make sense of it all. And so when I like try to like get her to do other logical sequencing, she's like, you know, I can feel like it's sort of like I have to coax her into a scene versus she's like, I'm not interested, or I'm too busy doing this. And that's actually good to know, because it makes you more efficient in life. Because sometimes the thing you need to do is like, okay, it's not time for me to be doing this right now. I'm sure you felt this like with writing. If you can find a way that it makes sense to you to write, it just flows. Pages and pages, like nothing. If you try to make yourself do it, your spirits aren't biting on that, you're better off just going out in the world and exploring to try to figure out what they actually want to write about. Because sitting there trying to write about something that they don't feel like writing about is really kind of pointless. So you should actually change your energy to a more fruitful way.
Yeah, you should just force yourself to write about something.
I know for a fact, like when it comes to school and tests and all that sort of stuff, like I didn't really like it because I wasn't able to get into it. I was just like, why am I here? What am I doing this for? You know, I just would wait for the day to end. But then, you know, like now I find myself in a much different situation where it's like I actually have like an interest in some of the things, but I had to sort of like find what that meant to me first on my own, and you know, like journey on my own to find that, and then you know, just find a way to make that work in the world. And so then, you know, you're able to use all that energy and then funnel it into, you know, the coursework. And the coursework is not like, oh, I have to learn these things, it's just like boring. It's like no, it's like you actually want to learn them. It's like they're actually related just exactly to the story that you're working on. It's related to the case that you're working on.
Yeah, you hear so a lot of actors, for example, particularly like say Naiji on this, but really all actors, I hear him kind of saying this, which is the fun part's the research. But being on camera is fun too. But a lot, particularly like the Naiji, like they say, they love taking the time. People are like, why do you take 3 years to research a role? I love it. I love at the same time, like I would hate to be in a movie doing a role I don't feel like playing. That would be torture. It'd be torture to even do one scene, no rehearsal, just one scene as a character I don't feel like playing. Versus researching for 3 years for a role. Why? Because I'm playing Robin Hood and I think Robin Hood is cool. So reading on and on about how I'm going to be Robin Hood, everything is fascinating. That's like, it's feeding my Robin Hood dream. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Right.
I got to sign off because I have dinner plans here with Jailene. Is there anything
Sure.
before we go?
No, I think it's good.
Okay.
I thought this was a great hangout. It was fun talking with you guys. I
It
thought
was.
I felt like I was able to just flow like really easily, just back and
Yeah,
forth and
good.
stuff.
I really enjoyed that flow, and now it felt a nice,
Yeah.
good bonding session, and good, like we're like, okay, we're getting ready to be leaders as well, but we're being a tribe as we do it at the same time, which I really like that. You
Yeah.
guys hold on 1 second after we go offline. Bye, world.
Bye, world.